Hey, my beautiful, beautiful, lovely people, a pleasant evening to you. I'm reading the online Gleaner and I'm seeing something that says nonsense graduations. All right, let's read it. Apart from a whinge over the school's alleged exploitative pricing of the affairs, a more substantive contribution by Stuart Jacobs and his National Parent Teacher Association of Jamaica NPTAJ would have been an explanation of their perspectives of the value of graduations, and that's in quotations, from even earliest stages of the education system. An example of this is one reported on by this newspaper on Saturday. The graduation class of 2026 at the Cromarty Grover Early Childhood Development Center in St. Catherine, where the commencement address was by an 11-year-old former student. One of the photographs accompanying the story is of a small group of seemingly bewildered small children decked in blue gowns with yellow trim and broad ecclesiastically styled collars and falling bands for the girls. The boys sported yellow stoles. These children, captured with frightened or quizzical looks on their faces, had just been told by a precocious child to celebrate your achievements and to dream big. I mean, God can use anyone. Let us say that. If him use a donkey and an obia man, why can't he use an 11-year-old? I'm just saying, to, basically pronounce the blessings on the Israelites. And when the king called him to curse them, he said, listen, what God bless, I cannot curse. No matter what you pay me or what you try, God bigger than you. Him bigger than the obia man, the satanic man, everybody, basically. In the exaggerated earnestness of the moment, no one apparently contemplated the absurdity of the event. Lord, much the same way that the public debate over the Ascot Primary School graduation affair continues to skirt one of the issue's core questions: graduation from what? The Ascot Primary matter erupted a little more a week ago, when it was revealed that the school in Portmore St. Catherine had taken a two-tiered approach to its graduation ceremony for its grade 6 students, the grade at which children transition from primary to secondary education. What the school's principal, Mark Jackson, and his staff did was to cause the students who met the proficient standards at the primary exit profile PEP, which determines readiness for high school learning, to wear gowns and mortar boards and march at the front of the exiting grade 6 class. The parents of these students paid $26,000 for this privilege and the costume. Oh boy, this right are not easy. The other students who did not meet the PEP proficient benchmarks walked in the rear. They didn't wear gowns. Their families were charged $16,000 for their children's participation in the events surrounding the graduation exercise. Rightly outraged. Many people have been rightly outraged at what happened at Ascot. The imagery of the event and its potential psychological impact on the back of the line students. The apology of Principal Jackson notwithstanding, it is still befuddling my apology that in planning the affair, Mr. Jackson and his teachers were oblivious to the humiliation likely to be felt by the differently dressed students who were to bring up the rear. As Education Minister Dana Morris Dixon said in response to the Ascot Primary matter, our schools must be places where children are encouraged to strive for excellence while knowing they are valued, respected, and supported. No child should experience humiliation, exclusion, or discrimination in an institution entrusted with nurturing their development. Neither Dr. Morris Dixon nor most commentators on the Ascot fiasco addressed the premise of holding lavish graduating ceremonies for tots, leaving early childhood centers at basic schools for primary schools, and 12 and 13-year-olds transitioning from primary to high. Their attention has largely been on the long-standing complaints about the costs of these programs. Mr. Jacobs, the Parent Teachers Association president, doesn't appear to be concerned about the graduation ceremonies at the stage of children's education. But the fact that some schools charge excessively and the use the ceremonies as fundraising projects, that is now where I was wondering where his point was. Now I can understand that, at the basic level, basic school level, or the prep or primary level, the excessive graduation cost is unnecessary. It's not that. I don't think the writer is saying that you don't need to have graduation at that age. Yes, it can have little celebratory moments because it can train them to do well. As time goes on, they know that, oh, if I do well, I will graduate and I feel good in my gown and and whatever trimmings and whatnot looking good and people screaming and yelling my name, right? So it can begin to sow that seed, for greatness and for excellence. But the in terms of the amount. So for the ones at Ascot Primary, they should not have even paid such a high price, and they weren't proficient and then had to walk at the back. Little emotional intelligence was certainly used there, if any. So I understand where he's coming from. I thought he was saying that the graduation is unnecessary at that stage, but he was saying at that stage, because they're young and just really transitioning, still in their childhood stage, going into puberty, really, they shouldn't be, charging the exorbitant fees. And I'm with him on that. Mr. Jacobs, the Parent Teachers Association president, okay, I read that already. Graduation is a privilege offered by school, he said. Let the child wear the school uniform and have the experience. Good, I'm with him. Comic theater is the subheading. Except that graduation from basic and primary school is more comic theater than celebrations. Lot of completed processes where the people in mortarboards and gowns are at the end rather than at the start of a significant journey. High school is a reasonably appropriate place to start such ceremonies. I mean, nothing is wrong, as I said, if they have a little ceremony, celebratory moment, because it may sow a seed that if I do well, this can happen for me. It can give them, it can start to begin that seed to say that, it is really imperative to do well. So you can, but the exorbitant fees and maybe going too hard, especially in our economy, and if it is a school that, depends on government aid and it's difficult, then I will agree with the gentleman on that. But nothing is wrong if you have your little ceremonies at the primary level and so on. Just don't make it too lavish or as grandiose as when you're leaving high school and upwards. Right, he said reasonably start such ceremonies. Despite Minister Morris Dixon's statement that the secondary pathways recorded in the PEP reports are designed to inform the development of the learning plan for students so they can improve their learning journey, graduation from basic and primary school glosses over critical failures in Jamaica's education system. Based on the PEP assessments, each year approximately 3 in 10 students complete primary education without meeting the proficient standard in language arts. That's true. They are not deemed to be at the level to read and comprehend and communicate in English at a level deemed appropriate for the age and grade level. In mathematics, the ratio is 4 in 10. I can believe that one. With this weak foundation, less than a fifth of high school students pass 5 subjects, including math and English, in the single sitting in the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate exams. And the United Nations agency UNICEF reported that the average 11.7 years Jamaican children spend in schools produces only 7.2 years of learning when benchmarked against top performing systems. This is a 4.5 year gap. Remember the time when I had looked online to see where we are as it relates to literacy and illiteracy? We were at 137th place. Basic and primary schools have more to do than organize graduation ceremonies. Their focus must be on fixing the education deficit. The critical mission of primary schools must ensure that children read, write, comprehend, and do sums at levels appropriate for their ages and grades. The government must ban these over-the-top ceremonies at state-funded institutions at the pre-secondary level. As I said, once it's small, that's fine. But if it's too grand, I'll agree with the person on this. Anyway, guys, you know what to do with TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe, give me one of those lines, and follow me on Instagram.